Peggy 3.
Welcome to the Boot Room. I'm Matt Cuttle, this is Darren Cross, and this week we're going to be discussing the nuances of crossing and hopefully scoring a few goals in the process. So Darren, what factors affect whether a cross is successful or not?
Many things really, the speed of the cross, the position of your player in the box, all that kind of thing, but rather than focus on those individually, I think we'll look at the different types of crosses available and how you can score from them.
So before we go onto the pitch, let's talk about cross assistance. You'll find that in the menus, and that really does fundamentally affect the way you do a cross, doesn't it?
It does, yeah. I think it's an important setting to have a look at and find the best setting that suits you. So if you head to the Customise FIFA menu and then click on the controller section, you'll find cross assistance there. And in that you have three options. Manual, which leaves you in total control of the direction and the power of your cross. It can be quite tricky to master, but apparently it's very effective if you do get it. If you don't want to go for manual, there's assisted. You use that, the game will take complete control of your cross, so the power and the direction will be controlled by the game. And the one in between is semi, which is the one that I like to use the most. In that, the game helps with direction, but you control the power. And the reason I pick semi is because it's not as difficult as manual, but you can still affect who the ball goes to according to how much power you put on the cross. So for example, if you've got a player at the near post and the far post, if you don't put too much power on the cross, it's going to go to the near post guy, more power will send it to the far post, so you can still affect it.
Excellent. I think assisted is the default mode, so it might be just worth having a play with that, go into semi and just try it out at least and have a little practice, yeah?
Yeah, it's definitely worth having a look at. There are other things to consider like auto switching and auto switching move assistance and things like that, but the one to really have a look at first is cross assistance.
Excellent. Now let's talk about how you actually tap the button to get the cross into the box. There are different ways to do that as well, aren't there?
Yeah, there are a number of different ways. I think that the best place to start is with the standard cross. So you simply just hit the X button once you're in a crossing position, which is usually sort of level with the edge of the opponent's box, anywhere around that sort of area. And that's probably the cross that you use most often. It's certainly the one that I use a lot. Again, you can control where the ball goes if you're using semi by the power level that you put on the cross, so it is quite a useful cross.
How near to the goal line do you go when you're crossing? Do you just wait until you get exactly where the penalty area starts, or do you sometimes end up almost kicking the ball out before you whip it in?
It completely depends on the position of the strikers, and that's how I judge when to cross the ball. So depending on their position, I might try and cross it early if it looks like they're going to get ahead of their man, or if I'm waiting for them to catch me up and fill the box, I'll run that bit closer to the line and hold on to the ball before I whip it in.
Now, what happens if you double tap the cross button?
Yeah, if you double tap, you go for what's called a low cross, which is very similar to a standard cross, but it just moves that bit quicker. It's a bit like a whipped cross, if you like. And this is really useful in situations where you have a striker that looks like he's going to overtake a defender. So essentially, he's going to get to the ball quicker than him. And you need to get the ball to him fast. If you used a standard cross in those situations, it would hang up a little bit longer, and there'd be a better chance that the defender would intercept, whereas a low cross is really going to whip it in front of your striker and hopefully you'll be able to get on the end of the ball first.
Now, talking about being caught up, something I like to do a lot is actually do an early cross, which is done by modifying the cross with LB, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. You can hold the LB button and then hit the cross button, and that's going to whip the ball into, well, it's more of a sort of a lofted cross really rather than a whip, but it will aim towards the penalty area. And you can really catch players out with this because you do it so early. So the position is somewhere between the edge of the D in your opponent's half and then the edge of their area, sort of that part of the pitch. And if you see a man that's made an early move into the box and is still onside, get an early cross into him, and often people just don't expect it.
Now there's another type of cross that you don't use that often in FIFA 13, and that's the sort of cross along the floor. Yeah,
the ground cross. Yeah, I have to say I used it a lot in FIFA 12, but I think the positioning of the defenders in FIFA 13 has improved to a point where it's much more difficult to use now. Previously you'd find that a low cross, a sort of driven cross like that, would often find your player or bobble off a defender and go in for an own goal, but it's very difficult to execute properly now. Because of that improved positioning. The only time I use it is if I've got a man that's completely unmarked in the box and I want to get the ball to him on the floor as quickly as possible, then I triple tap the cross button and hopefully that'll find him.
Now this episode is primarily about delivering the cross, but let's briefly touch on scoring from crosses. What things should we remember? Yeah,
the key to scoring from a cross really is to remember that you need to get to the ball first, obviously. You've got to get there before the opponent, and that's where some of the things we've touched on before can help. For example, left trigger is going to get you in the air before the defender, hopefully, and that's going to give you the best chance of scoring either with a header or a volley. And also keep in mind that for crosses that are a bit more lofty, you get a split second to move the player that you've got selected in the box, and if you can move him between the defender and the ball, then you're going to be in a much better position to receive a cross and hopefully score from it.
Darren, thanks for those crossing tips. We're out of time for this week, but you're okay to come back next week and discuss defending those crosses?
Yeah, we'll look at defending crosses and how to get the ball away from danger.
Great, I look forward to that. We'll be back next week with the Boot Room. In the meantime, don't forget to check out Match Magazine's Facebook page. Details are on screen now, and we'll see you next week.